conduct mass was arrested and charged with fraudulent conversions. In Maharashtra, 14 Christians, including a 17-year-old boy, were arrested on charges of, once again, engaging in conversion. In Chhattisgarh, an armed mob that included 2 local BJP leaders invaded a church and smashed its premises. In Maharashtra, grave markers at a Christian cemetery were pulverized. Meanwhile, that violence in Manipur continues unabated. Between the death count, the numbers of homes and religious sites torched, and the amount of people displaced, the Manipur pogrom is undeniably the absolute worst instance of violence to occur since Modi came to power in 2014. At this point, in terms of severity, it has quite possibly even surpassed the 2008 Kandhamal pogrom against Christians in India. It is, in short, the worst violence to touch and be tolerated by the Republic of India since Modi oversaw the mass slaughter of 2,000 Muslim men, women, and children in the 2002 Gujarat pogrom. But there I go, starting to sound like I'm making assumptions about the existence of some kind of a pattern. These incidents are aberrations, nothing more. After all, as Modi insisted when questioned at the White House last month about human rights violations against Indian minorities, he said, there is absolutely no question of discrimination. It was then just pure chance that a few tens of thousands of Modi's online advocates immediately seized on the fact that the reporter who dared to question their dear leader was none other than a Muslim woman named Sabrina Siddiqui. Sheer happenstance, of course, is the reason that 2 weeks after the fact, Sabrina Siddiqui continues to receive a barrage of rape and death threats. By that metric, it must have just been similar bad luck that after former President Barack Obama warned about the need for India to protect the human rights of its Muslim citizens, the BJP chief minister of Assam shot back by comparing Obama to those Muslims in India, saying that taking care of Indian Muslims should be their priority before considering going to Washington. Of course, a charitable perspective might be that the chief minister's ominous remark was misinterpreted, and that when he talked about taking care of Indian Muslims, he meant clothing, feeding, educating, and employing them. On the other hand, shifting focus back to Modi, a less charitable interpretation of his remarks might be that when he said that there is absolutely no question of discrimination, he meant that there is absolutely no question that discrimination is the name of the BJP's game. Perhaps also, when Modi spoke about how democracy runs deep in India's veins, the part that he just forgot to mention is that his regime has slashed open those veins to bleed out the nation's democracy so that he can transfuse it with the poison of supremacy. The truth is that when Mr. Shukla did what he did to that poor tribal man, he was simply exposing for all the world to see the tragic reality of the predominant spirit of supremacy conjured up by Modi's regime. After all, when we examine this long series of atrocities which have occurred and continue to occur under Modi's iron-fisted rule of India, it begins to emerge as a pattern of aberrations. If aberrations occur in a pattern, they are no longer exceptions to the norm. Rather, in Modi's new India, abhorrent aberrations are now the new normal. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Yeah. You have a long, like a well-documented research list of the. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Right. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you for sharing. See, the irony is, even though there are a lot of human rights violation happening, in India, specifically against Muslims and Christians, burning of churches, but you have to understand the character of the, American capitalist or character of American military industrial complex. What do they really care? Do they care about the civil rights, or do they care about profits by selling weapons? This is the, because the same, several years ago, the US government have rejected the visa for the Modi, right? But obviously at the head of the state, they have immunity. But at least, see, whenever the state agencies, the government agencies, when they operate human rights organization, right, it's a phony agenda. They are not really serious about, right? They want to just make some noise. But, but unfortunately, I think the American public, right, the American working class have to seriously take a note of this, these civil rights violations, right? And they have to, because there are certain areas, for example, the foreign capital in that certain areas, they have to attach this, the civil rights record, where they have to insist and demand, right, the Modi or any regime should implement the constitutional rights. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for thoughtful speech. Yeah.
So much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now I think let me see. Indus Martin garu, can you hear me? Yeah. So
Yeah,
looks
I'm
like
here.
we have a few speakers. Indus Martin joined, and also Addan Kidayakar joined. Haragopal garu, I don't know whether you joined or not. I can't see your name, but I think Indus Martin is the next speaker will be Indus Martin. He is a writer, right, and also comes with a deep experience of from a Dalit life, and has experienced some of the how this discrimination takes place, in communities, how specifically the Hindutva, the caste system, how it suppresses, Dalit Bahujan community. He has a lot of experiences. He has written his books from his lifetime experiences, right? Author of several books, and also he makes, does a lot of research based on the previous experience. I always felt Indus Martin does a lot of research, brings the insights from the ground, So Indus Martin, please, continue your speech. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, convener, for inviting me here, and thank you for that mouthful introduction about me. I don't know whether I deserve all that. I would like to thank Peter, also the one who spoke in front before me. Thank you, Peter, for being so vivid and full of for bringing all those details, right, minute details that talks about your research orientation. I want to pitch myself, somewhere around what happened when Manipur started burning, and how the society around me reacted, and what is the malice inside their minds. This is my area for my expression today. When the real burning, or when the real raid started in Manipur, um, I waited for about 2 weeks, expecting that all that loud voices of our Telugu society would raise their voice once again for these people. I also looked at those people that have been constantly fighting for the rights of Kashmiris from time to time. These big voices, they are very prominent, and they are into, progressive literature. They are mostly into communist magazines. They write from regularly from about everything. At times, it looks like they have day-to-day contacts from Kashmir, and therefore they report on any minute, small incident that happens against human rights there. I used to be very much surprised, but the same people, when they remained silent, and I was really surprised, and I was shocked rather. And then I started voicing out in social media, actually challenged them about being silent. Then to my surprise again, most of them said that they had no idea about what was happening in Manipur. Point one, Manipur has been an integral part of India as old as Kashmir. In fact, Kashmir had an idea like, it isn't a part of India, and they had their own special status. right? Whereas Manipur has been a part of integral India, and Manipur, we have people have been visiting Manipur on tourism also, and several of those activists from Telugu society, Telugu community, they even went to Iromi. They even went to Imphal Yama market, and they took pictures, and they wrote great about the movement, that was conducted by the women of Manipur. They spoke so high about the integrity and the revolutionary spirit of those women of Manipur back in those days. If you can remember that picture of Manipuri mothers, standing naked with a big banner challenging Indian Army against Army special powers. With that banner, Indian Army rape us. If you remember that picture got circulated millions of times whenever the feminists of this community, Telugu community, try to speak out about the rights of women. And then many men also took inspiration from them. But the same people, but the same revolutionary groups remained absolutely mute when this was happening in Manipur, that hundreds of were getting massacred, and houses were getting torched, and especially the prayer houses were getting burnt. Right. When I say prayer houses, it's this is how Christians want to mention about their churches. Okay. Basically and personally, I am not a Christian, and I don't practice religion. In fact, I wrote a lot of criticism about Indian Christianity also. Right. My recent book also talks very critical about Indian Christianity, and it's being deceptive. That's a different story. But then I was really surprised when these people remained silent. Then I started challenging them. I received some replies like this. Some said that they had no idea. Fine. See, one can always escape with this kind of excuse that they had no idea, they didn't get any news. And another person told that internet is blocked in Manipur, and therefore she could not get any news. Whereas the same day, I had to open YouTube and show her at least 120 YouTube videos about Manipur being on volcano. Then that particular activist said that she would only trust the wire and Ravish Kumar. And then by the time Ravish Kumar and Wire of course made its first video about Manipur and the turmoil going on in Manipur. So, see, people are not honest to their progressive or revolutionary ideology. Is my point here. They have generally what happens when you are speaking out for the voiceless. When you are giving your voice for the voiceless, people look at you. And then you can't say on a fine morning that no, I have nothing to do with this. Why should I speak always about these people? You can't say that, because see, you built a kind of a personality and a hope in you that all people look at you, and on fine morning you cannot get up and say no, why should I alone? Some other people said, why should I? Why can't you? What I understand is Telugu progressive society is not honest to their ideology, is not honest to their aims and goals also. I see revolution in Telugu society for a long time. It's been almost 70 years that even weaponed militancy against the ruling governments started. 70 years almost. They celebrated, I think, 75 years of communism also, right? But then in this country, revolution never happened as much as it happened in any other Western or European countries. Lots of revolutionaries are here. Lots of institutions are named after communism or leftist ideology or progressive ideology, and lots of people talk about it. There are lots of activists, in every region who are known for their revolutionary ideology. But then actual revolution doesn't happen in this country. Actual liberation doesn't happen in this country, especially especially the liberation of oppressive people and their access towards their minimum human rights. It doesn't happen here. Even today, we get to see a man getting peed on his face, and then the next morning, the same man who got insulted, who got humiliated, comes out to say that no, please leave my perpetrator because he is the pandit of my village, and I don't want any punishment to him, and because he is the pandit of my village, and I got peed on my face, and I know I don't have any problem. This is the way a man comes out today, and he wants he wants freedom to his perpetrator. It doesn't, this liberation is not going to happen in this country. The reasons are the so-called liberation fronts, or the so-called leftist fronts, so-called progressive fronts, are not honest to their ideology. Instead of educate, most of these people are coming from the oppressing castes and oppressing classes. Most of these people, if you take it to Manavadam, I mean, humanism, look into communism, look into armed revolutionary groups, look into anything, feminism, look into anything that is making lots of noise in Telugu, I mean, in Indian liberation fronts. Most of these people come from oppressing classes as well as oppressing castes, and instead of going back to their own communities and educating them, instead of going back to their own caste and exhorting them about their wise-ness, they come to the oppressive people and they try to educate them. They say that Dalit should get educated, Muslims should come out of their fundamentalism, right? Adivasi should rise to education. Do you think education and coming out of this, religion really grants liberation to anybody? Does it really assure, human rights to people? Education, I am educated, but I am oppressed every day. I am a highly educated person, and I work and I have my own position. I have everything with me as far as material positions are concerned. But then I get humiliated on day-to-day basis. The person who is working with me at the same rank gets an easy access to implement the government orders, whereas I have to work double shift to implement the same orders. People, my own colleagues, my subordinates don't cooperate with me because I don't belong to that affluent class or caste. Education doesn't. If education really grants you liberation to people, why should Akunuru Murali sir resign from his job? If education really grants liberation or rights to people, why should this many Dalit activists, Dalit educated people in the highest ranks suffer? I know, and I sir, he's working in Uttar Pradesh now, and this man has been taken into revenue department, but he hasn't been given any position. Work is not divided. He has been kept in abeyance. He has been kept on hold for the past, I think 6 months. And throughout his 20 years of career, he hardly worked at any designation for about 5 years. Most of the time he was kept on hold. Government is ready even to pay you salary, but it's not ready to give you an opportunity to exhibit your talents. At the same time, it blames you that you are talentless. So why does this happen? If education really grants me freedom, grants me liberation, so this is a bogus statement by many of these progressive people, progressive thinkers of communities. Especially, I'm talking about the Telugu community. And then they also talk about sacrificing things. When I don't have anything, I just started taking my complete meal. I started taking my square meal in the recent times. My parents, my forefathers, they never had one square meal in their stomachs. And then you ask me to sacrifice. Is it possible? I am ready to sacrifice. But how many of those Dalits that are into having their square meal really try to think like this and sacrifice? And immediately people start talking like reservations are the biggest problem. If you take reservation in one generation, you should sacrifice it for the remaining generations, so that other backward people, other oppressed people can get access to this. This is also a bogus story. So far, reservations haven't been reservations haven't been here from the history. It's all about some 70 years. Within the 70 years, some 2 to 3 generations got into it. Do you think about how many families had 3 generations reservations in their families? Hardly 1 or 2. Most of these people that are working in government sector are first generation reservation users. But then we already started, the negative rhetoric, like, reservations are being taken away for generations together, and that's another problem. See, all these things, all this ideology, all this, gossip or narrative is created by, again, progressive ideologies of our communities. That's a problem with them. Their dishonesty is resulting in a fake revolution. It results in dubious fighting. It results in fictitious revolution. So I should say. So I want to request all people, to leave that. If you don't want to really, help this, this fighting for human rights, you stay calm. We don't mind. But then do not come forward and start blaring so much of a big, harp, and then, start, diverting us, or misleading us into false aims and false ideologies. And about coming back to situation today, I'm really sad. I'm really sad. These people, the people coming from, the activists coming from oppressing classes and oppressing castes, they never speak in their family gatherings. They never speak in their caste gatherings. Say, for example, marriages are there, funerals are there, lots of festivals are there, and then Vanabhojanalu, this Vanabhojan, the picnics, caste-wise picnics, right, is a surprising fact. Perhaps if there is any American or any non-Indian in this group listening to me, they must be very much surprised. These things happen here, caste-wise picnics. The people of the same caste go into forest, cook and eat, and enjoy a day, and all those people that are invited to that belong to the same caste. So at least in these gatherings, the so-called great progressive thinkers and ideologists should speak and exhort their people. They should talk against the way their people have been oppressing. Instead of bringing change in the oppressor, please do not try to teach lessons to the oppressed people. That's really shame. That's really dubious on your part. So that's all I can say for now. It's all spontaneous from my mind. Thank you so much for including me into this group. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Indus Martin. I think Indus Martin, obviously, he also put forward a few narratives, right? I think the education system, right, as he narrated, the education system, is it a feudal education system, caste education system? Obviously, it does not teach any, core human values and democratic values. Only when we have the scientific education system, right, then only you can expect it. That is, I think there are people, educationalists, who are constantly fighting it. And revolution is a big topic, right? How revolution comes, right? Whether revolution, does it really address the topics of caste discrimination, class discrimination? These are all, obviously it needs more intensive, discussions. Right now we don't have time, but at the end of the day, which ideology will prevail, right? Which working class will bring revolution is all debatable. Only the time and history will tell, right? Now, Dayakar, can you hear me? Vinistunదా?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you, Indus Martin garu. I think definitely this is a thought-provoking speech, and maybe in future we have to take these points and we have to discuss about it. Now I would like to now we have Addanki Dayakar, right, who is a rights activist. He is also involved a lot of people's movements, like Telangana state for formation, and also he represents one of the key leader of Mala Mahanadu, right, president of Mala Mahanadu, which is the Dalit community, one of the largest Dalit community in South India, along with the Madhika community as well. So he will be he is also involved in the Congress party as well. But we know him as a rights activist. That is how we got to know him before he entered into political entry. Now I would like to request to Danki Dayakar to speak. He will be speaking in his native language, it is Telugu, and also English. He is going to speak. Danki Dayakar, yeah, please speak up.
Yeah. Good morning. First of all, excuse చేయండి, తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీష్ లో రెండిట్లో మా కంఫర్ట్ ఇన్ తెలుగు ఉంది. ఈ అంటే ఇండియాలో దళిత్ క్రిస్టియన్ బహుజన్స్ మీద జరుగుతున్న దాడి అనేది ఇది ఒక రకంగా ఈ వలస పాలకుల నుంచి వచ్చిన నైజం. ఇది ముఖ్యంగా ఆర్యన్ రేస్ ఇక్కడ ఆధిపత్యానికి ఒక బేస్ గా చేసుకొని ఈ దేశంలో ఉన్న కొన్ని ఆధిపత్య కులాలను ఆవహించిన తర్వాత వచ్చిన ఈ దాడి అనేది నా యొక్క ఆలోచన. దాదాపు 10,000 years ago ఇక్కడికి వచ్చిన వలస జాతిగా ఉన్న ఆర్యులు, అంటే వలస జాతి అనేది అంటే బతకడానికి వచ్చిన వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఆధిపత్యం ఈరోజు ఇక్కడ ఉన్న కుల వ్యవస్థను తీసుకోవడం వల్ల క్యాస్ట్ సిస్టమ్ అనేది వాళ్ళకి ఒక బేస్ అయిన పరిస్థితి మనకు కనబడుతున్నది. అది సోషల్ గా, ఎకనామికల్ గా, పొలిటికల్ గా కూడా ఈరోజు ఆ పాలకుల యొక్క నైజాన్ని, ఆ పాలకుల యొక్క ఇజాన్ని ఇన్స్పిరేషన్ గా తీసుకున్న ఎన్డీఏ ఆర్ బీజేపీ, అది కాకుండా ఇంకా ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్, వీళ్ళ ప్రేరేపితమైన ప్రభుత్వాలు, వీళ్ళ ప్రేరేపితమైన పార్టీల వల్లనే ఈరోజు ఇలాంటి స్థితి వచ్చిందని నేను అనుకుంటున్నా. ప్రత్యేకించి ఇప్పుడు జరుగుతున్న మణిపూర్లో జాతుల మధ్యన వర్గ వైరుధ్యం కావచ్చు, లేదంటే ఇంకో ప్రాంతంలో జరుగుతున్న క్రిస్టియన్స్ మీద జరుగుతున్న దాడి కావచ్చు. ముఖ్యంగా ఇక్కడ పాలకుల్లో మొఘల్స్ కానీ, సుల్తాన్స్ కానీ దీర్ఘకాలం పాలించడం వల్ల ఇక్కడ ఇస్లాంకు డైవర్ట్ అయిన, ఇస్లాంకు కన్వర్ట్ అయిన ఎస్సీ ఎస్టీ లేదంటే అప్పుడు పాలితులుగా ఉన్న ఓబీసీలు అంతా కూడా డైవర్ట్ అయిన పరిస్థితి. వాళ్ళని ఇప్పటికి కూడా సబార్డినేట్స్ గా చూడడం అనేది ఇక్కడ పాలకుల యొక్క లక్ష్యమైంది. అంటే ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ పూర్తిగా సనాతన ధర్మ, హిందూ ధర్మను కాపాడే ముసుగులో పూర్తిగా కింది వర్గాల యొక్క ప్రయోజనాలను అట్టిపెట్టి లేదంటే అణిగదొక్కి ఒక కుట్ర జరుగుతున్న పరిస్థితి. కాబట్టి ఇలా రాజ్యాంగం అంబేద్కర్ గారు తీసుకొచ్చిన తర్వాత వాళ్ళకి రైట్స్ వచ్చినాయి. ఈ ఈక్వాలిటీ రైట్స్ అనేవి వీళ్ళకు నచ్చవు. ఎప్పుడు కూడా డామినెంట్ ఉండాలి. మను సిస్టమ్ ఆల్వేస్ ఏమంటారు, క్యాస్ట్ సిస్టమ్ గురించి, వర్ణ వ్యవస్థ గురించి మాట్లాడుతుంది. సో ఈ చాతుర్వర్ణ వ్యవస్థ అనేది ఎలా ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేయడానికి బీజేపీ, ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ పడుతున్న తాపత్రయం మనం చూస్తున్నాం. ఇది హిందూ దేశంగా ఉంచాలనే ఒక ఆలోచనతోని, లేదంటే హిందూ దేశంగా మార్చాలనే ఒక ఎత్తుగడలతోని మాత్రమే ప్రజల్ని విడగొట్టే ఒక కుట్ర చేస్తున్నాం. దాంట్లో నా దృష్టిలో క్రిస్టియన్స్ కూడా ఆ రోజు హిందూ మతం నుంచి ఎలివేయబడ్డ ఎస్సీ కులాలే ఎక్కువ క్రిస్టియానిటీని తీసుకున్నారు. తర్వాత ఇక్కడ ఇస్లాం కూడా ఈ వర్గాల నుంచి పాలకులు ఎప్పుడైతే బెదిరిస్తారో వాళ్ళ నుంచి ముస్లిమ్స్ కూడా మారిన పరిస్థితి మనం గమనిస్తున్నాం. కాబట్టి వీళ్ళు ఏ రూపంలో దాగి ఉన్నా వాళ్ళ మీద దాడి జరుగుతుంది అనేది నా యొక్క ప్రాథమిక అంచనా. అది ఇక్కడ ఉంది, హైదరాబాద్ ఉంది అనుకోండి, మ్యాక్సిమం గా వీరయ్య అని ఒక పీర్ల వీరయ్య అని చెప్పేసి 1,00,000 మందితో ఇస్లాంలో జాయిన్ అయింది. ఏది మధ్య పాకిస్తాన్ గా హైదరాబాద్ ను మేము డిక్లేర్ చేస్తాము అనే క్రమంలో నేను హిందూగానైతే ఉండను, నేను ముస్లింగా ఉంటా అని చెప్పి 1,00,000 మందితో ఒక మాదిగా ఇస్లాంలో జాయిన్ అయిన పరిస్థితిని చూడొచ్చు. విక్టరీ ప్లే గ్రౌండ్ లో కూడా దళితులు అందరినీ కూడా పిలిచి ఆ రోజు కాసిం రజ్వీ పెద్ద ఎత్తున వాళ్ళకు భూములు ఇస్తా అని చెప్పి కూడా ఇస్లాంలకు మార్చుకున్న చరిత్ర ఇక్కడ తెలంగాణ చరిత్ర ఉన్నది. కాబట్టి దేశంలో ప్రతి ప్రాంతంలో ప్రొటెక్షన్ కొరకు ఆ రోజు పాలకులుగా ఉన్న ముస్లింనో, లేకపోతే బ్రిటిష్ వాళ్ళు వచ్చినాక బ్రిటిష్ రెజ్యూమ్ లో వాళ్ళు హాస్టల్స్, లేకపోతే చర్చెస్, హాస్పిటాలిటీ ఇవన్నీ ఇవ్వడం వల్ల కూడా చాలా మంది క్రిస్టియానిటీకి మారిపోయింది. ఎందుకు అన్టచబిలిటీ అనేది చాలా ప్రైమ్ గా ఉన్న రోజుల్లో తన గుడికి రాని అన్నప్పుడు ఒక ఆల్టర్నేట్ గుడిని ఈరోజు దళితులు కానీ లేదంటే బడుగులు కానీ చూసుకున్న పరిస్థితి మనం చరిత్ర చెప్తున్నది. కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు ఆ సంఘటన అన్నిటి వ్యతిరేకించే భావజాలం ఉన్న ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్, ఆ సంఘటనలు రాజకీయం చేసే భావజాలం ఉన్న బీజేపీ ఈరోజు అధికారంలోకి వచ్చింది. కాబట్టి ఈ రకమైన దాడులు, క్యాస్ట్ల మధ్యన దాడులు, మతాల మధ్యన దాడులు, ప్రాంతాల మధ్యన దాడులు ఇవన్నీ కూడా వాళ్ళు ప్రేరేపిస్తున్నాయి అనేది నా ప్రాథమిక అంచనా. ఇది స్టేట్ స్పాన్సర్డ్ ఏమంటారు క్రిమినాలిటీ. నా దృష్టిలో వాళ్ళే రెచ్చగొట్టి ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ మతాయి వర్సెస్ నాగాస్ మధ్యన జరుగుతున్న ఫైట్ కూడా నేను మొన్న మరిపూర్ ఎలక్షన్స్ నేను అక్కడ ఇన్ఛార్జ్గా లాంబ్లా ఇన్ఛార్జ్గా పోయినా అక్కడ కూడా హిల్ ఏరియాలో ఉండే ట్రైబ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నారో వాళ్ళు అడ్వాన్స్ అవ్వడం కూడా తట్టుకోలేని స్థితిలో ఇలా రిజర్వేషన్స్ మాకు కూడా కావాలని చెప్పి అక్కడ ఆధిపత్య కులాలుగా ఉన్న మతాయిలు కూడా ఈరోజు పోరాటానికి వచ్చి ఘర్షణలకు తెరలేపిన పరిస్థితి. అది ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ స్పాన్సర్డే అక్కడ. కాబట్టి స్టేట్ కూడా వారికి సపోర్ట్ చేసింది. కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ దళితుల మీద కానీ బహుజనుల మీద కానీ క్రిస్టియన్ల మీద కానీ లేకపోతే ముస్లిమ్స్ మీద కానీ దాడి జరిగితే ప్రభుత్వం సానుభూతిని తెలియజేస్తుంది తప్పితే చర్యలు ఉండవు. అది వందల సంఘటనలు మీకు ఛాత్రాస్ నుంచి మొదలు పెడితే ప్రతి ఒక్క సంఘటన అది మహిళల మీద కావచ్చు, దళితుల మీద కావచ్చు. ఇంకా అతిపెద్ద కమ్యూనిటీ ఇప్పుడు సప్రెసింగ్ కమ్యూనిటీ ఏంటి అని అంటే ఉమెన్స్. సో ఉమెన్స్ కు హ్యూమన్ రైట్స్ లేవు అనేది ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ యొక్క భావన. ఇక్కడ కేవలం మహిళా హక్కులు రాజ్యాంగం ద్వారా రావడం వల్ల కూడా ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ జీర్ణించుకోలేని స్థితిలో ఉన్నది. కాబట్టి మొత్తంగా మీకు ఈ సంఘటనలన్నీ ఎందుకు జరుగుతున్నాయి అనేది ఒకసారి ఆలోచిస్తే 1925 ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ ఏర్పాటు 2025కి 100 సంవత్సరాలుగా మారబోతున్న ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ కు ఆ రోజు హెడ్ గేవర్ గోల్వాల్కర్ ఏదైతే కోరుకున్నారో ఈ దేశాన్ని సెక్యులర్ స్టేట్ గానో అందరూ కలిసి ఉండే స్టేట్ గానో ఉంచడానికి అందరూ ప్రయత్నం చేస్తున్నారు. బట్ నేను కానీ నా వారసత్వం కానీ రేపు మేము అధికారంలోకి వస్తే దీన్ని హిందూ స్టేట్ గా మారుస్తామని హెడ్ గేవర్ ప్రతిన ఆ రోజు ఉన్నదనేది మనకున్న సమాచారం. 100వ సంవత్సరానికి ఇండియాను సోషలిస్ట్ రిపబ్లిక్ నుంచి పూర్తిగా హిందూ రిపబ్లిక్ గా మార్చడానికి ఒక పెద్ద ప్రయత్నం జరుగుతున్నట్టుగా మనకైతే కొన్ని ఆధారాలు తెలుస్తున్నాయి. అంటే 1 నేషన్ 1 ఎలక్షన్, ఈ తర్వాత రాష్ట్రాలను మొత్తం కూడా ఆధీనంలోకి తీసుకొచ్చి కేంద్రమే గుత్తాధిపత్యం తీసుకోవడం, మోడీ అంటే ఒక లీడర్ మాత్రమే ఈ దేశాన్ని పరిపాలించాలన్నట్టుగా కింగ్డమ్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ను తీసుకురావడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేస్తున్నారు. అంబేద్కర్ గారు వాటిని మాత్రమే డిమాలిష్ చేయడానికి, అంటే మీకు గవర్నర్ జనరల్ అనే పాత్రను కూడా తీసేసి ప్రెసిడెంట్ అనేది పెట్టిండ్రు. ఇప్పుడు ఆస్ట్రేలియా కానీ లేకపోతే కామన్వెల్త్ స్టేట్స్ లో మీరు చూస్తే అక్కడ హర్ ఎక్సలెన్సీ అని చెప్పేసి లేకపోతే హర్ మెజెస్టీ అని చెప్పి బ్రిటిష్ రాణికి ఒక చైర్ వేస్తారు. అది కాకుండా ఆయన దాన్ని కూడా ఆ కింగ్డమ్ ను లేకపోతే ఆ మూలాలను లేకుండా ఆయన ఏం చేసిండు, ప్రెసిడెంట్ అనే పోస్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేసి ఇక్కడ సామాన్యుడే లేకపోతే మేధావో లేకపోతే భారత రాజకీయాల్లోనో భారత సమాజం నుంచి ఎదిగిన వ్యక్తినే ఇక్కడ రాష్ట్రపతిగా ఒక సామాన్య పౌరుని రాష్ట్రపతిగా చేసే ఒక వ్యవస్థను తీసుకొచ్చింది. కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళకి కావాల్సింది మోడీ ఒక కింగ్ గా ప్రెసిడెన్షియల్ ఫార్మ్ ఆఫ్ డెమోక్రసీని ఇంపోజ్ చేసుకొని ఇక్కడ యూనిక్నెస్ అంత ఏదైతే ఈ డెమోక్రసీ పేరు మీద ఇవాళ ప్రజలు స్వాతంత్రం స్వేచ్ఛగా లేకపోతే సమానత్వంతో బతుకుతున్నారో వాటిని తీసేయాలనేదే వాళ్ళ యొక్క లక్ష్యంగా ఉన్నది. అందుకనే మోడీ అమిత్ షాను ఒకవైపు అదానీ అంబానీ ఇంకొక ఈ క్రోనీ క్యాపిటలిస్టులను ఇలా పూర్తిగా ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేసి రాజ్యాన్ని చూసుకోవడానికి ఇద్దరు, ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థను చూసుకోవడానికి ఇద్దరు అన్నట్టుగా ఈరోజు మనకు ఏంది దాని స్ఫూర్తి కేంద్రంగా ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ నిలిపి మొత్తం దేశాన్ని మొత్తం బానిసత్వం వైపు తీసుకుపోవడానికి ఒక కుట్ర జరుగుతున్న పరిస్థితుల్లో మనం ఉన్నాం. కాబట్టి దళిత్ బహుజన్స్ అనేది మెజారిటీ, ముఖ్యంగా వాళ్ళకి సమస్య పూలే అంబేద్కర్ రైట్స్ అంటే వాళ్ళకి పడదు. ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళే సోషల్ జస్టిస్ కొరకు పోరాడిన ఒకవైపు పూలే సామాజిక న్యాయ సిద్ధాంతాన్ని ఈరోజు తెర మీదకి తీసుకొస్తే దాన్ని ఉద్యమ రూపంలో తీసుకొచ్చి చైతన్యాన్ని నింపిన ఒక చరిత్ర ఇవాళ అంబేద్కర్ గారికి ఉన్నది. కాబట్టి అది కూడా ప్రభుత్వంలో దాన్ని ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసే ఒక రాజ్యాంగం వ్యవస్థను తీసుకురావడం అనేది అసలు బీజేపీ అది నచ్చదు. రాజ్యాంగం విదేశీ ఆత్మతో ఉంది, రాజ్యాంగాన్ని మనం మార్చుకోవాలి, రాజ్యాంగం అనేది ఈ దేశంతో కాదు అని చెప్పి ఒక రాంగ్ ప్రాపగండా తీసుకురావడం ద్వారా దాన్ని రాజ్యాంగాన్ని కూడా ఫిజిల్ అవుట్ చేసి మానవ సిస్టమ్ని రీఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేసే ఒక కుట్ర జరుగుతుంది. కాబట్టి డెఫినెట్ గా దీన్ని అడ్డుకోవడానికి ప్రజాస్వామిక శక్తులు కానీ ప్రజా సంఘాలు కానీ ఇంటెలెక్చువల్స్ కానీ మనం ముందుకు రావాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. ఈ జంక్చర్ లో ఈ వర్గాల మీద దాడులు అనేవి కూడా ఒక సూచికగా నేను భావిస్తున్నాను.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. Dayakar, thank you for your thoughtful speech, right? Due to the time constraints, we won't be able to translate all the speeches, but the brief translation is the attacks on Dalit Bahujans is an outcome of colonial rulers. Even though Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar written constitution with civil rights, but the Hindutva forces, they want to suppress it, right? So when Pirla Viraya, right, is a Madiga community, SC community. he joined more than 100,000 people in Islam. I think one point Dankidayakar says is like, what is the historical reasons why Dalits or Mala Madigas have joined religions like Christianity or Islam? That might be to protect themselves, or to protect the attacks of the ruling classes. That might be reason, right? And in Manipur, the ethnic cleansing of cookies, right? Whatever is happening, that is nothing but a state-sponsored criminality in Manipur. As a progressive forces or a democratic forces, we have to, respond on that. So, but anyway, in order to defeat this RSS ideology, RSS also doesn't recognize the women's rights. So it is the need of the hour that all the progressive democratic forces, secular forces have to unite, right, in order to, protect the rights of Dalit, Bahujans, and Christians. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, I think Professor Hargopal is already joined this call. One brief introduction is Professor Hargopal was one of the founding members of Civil Liberties Committee. In those days, it is called APCLC, along with KG Kannabiran, right? And Balagopal, and they played, starting the civil liberties, civil rights movement in Indian context, right? And one of the prominent academician from University of Hyderabad, and he was also a faculty member in several universities. He was the founding member of Civil Liberties Committee. Now I would like to request Professor Hargopal to address his speech.
Yeah, I am listening to Martin because I joined very late, but I heard a part of what Dayakarji has spoken. Now the real problem is that this problem of minorities, Dalit, Bahujans, even women, this should have been resolved as a part of the freedom struggle. See, freedom struggle was not questioning the very basis of religious discrimination and the caste system, although Dr. Ambedkar has raised this question right from 1925. But of course, what all that happened is that there's Article 17, abolition, untouchability, and all that. But by 50 Constitution was adopted. By 1955, they realized it's not enough that you write in the Constitution that the untouchability is abolished and SC/STs have certain rights. But my friend Dr. Balgopal used to say that Constitution defines certain standards, certain principles, but it does not give us the mechanism of implementing or enforcing those rights which are given to Dalits or the minorities. That's one problem. But in 1955, there is a scheduled caste, the Rights Protection, Civil Rights Protection Act. But even that has not worked, and by 1980s, we realized that the atrocities have continued, if not they increased. And therefore, there is the SC/ST Atrocities Prevention Act. And if you look at SC/ST Atrocities Prevention Act, there are about 29 atrocities listed. And to our utter shock, that even today, most of the atrocities, which are atrocious, I mean, you can't believe that human beings can behave the way they behave with other human beings. Just unbelievable. So therefore, they have been listed, and special courts have been provided, and such a mechanism has been provided. But it's very unfortunate that things have not improved. If anything, there are voices like that. There are several voices from the Dalits, but the ground reality at the grassroots level continues to be, very alarming. I must say, very alarming. Now, the problem is that, as Dr. Ambedkar cautioned, that if you perform revolution in the sense we haven't performed any revolution, but certain consciousness of Dalits has gone up. Dalits, there is a leadership, there are voices, but Dr. Ambedkar said, if you perform, revolution, the Brahminical or upper caste or the ruling class will perform counter-revolution. So I would say that we are passing through that phase of counter-revolution because the forces now in power have brought back Manusmriti, and they would like to have the constitution change. Lots of thinking is going on. What happens to 2024 will decide. But then see, three things are very important to the Brahminical order. One is the religion, the religion based on Manusmriti, and caste and gender, patriarchy. All these three things are coming back. And with the result, you find that the whatever voices that have come from Dalits, whenever a new leadership is emerging, the Bani in Uttar Pradesh or Azad and Shekhar Azad in Gujarat, they are very powerful democratic voices, there's no doubt. But then one was forced, almost he joined Congress party, the other recently was shot, and he's just recovering. Now the violence, really physical violence also has gone up. So that I think is one major problem, that the upper strata has reorganized itself, more violent, and there are continuous physical attacks, and the Indian state just keeps mum, or just is a dumb spectator. People are not punished because the state itself has come to share a part of this ideological architecture. I mean, that I think is the tragedy. So we are carrying this debate at a particular point of time in Indian history where the most of the atrocious things that were happening in a medieval period or even pre-medieval are coming back, and there is a what Dr. Ambedkar called a counter-revolution. Now, as far as the minorities are concerned, of course, both the Christians and Muslims. So as far as Christians are concerned, basically, the RSS thinking has been that there are three enemies to India, to Hindus. One is Muslims, the other are Christians, the other is the, the third is communists. This is what he has written. And they have gone to Mussolini, and they were great admirers of Hitler and Mussolini and entire fascism. They were fascinated by fascism. And some of their founder members have gone to Italy, they have gone to, Germany. They saw and they got a lot of inspiration. In this context, I must recall that Nietzsche, who was the philosopher of Hitler, was a great admirer of Manu. And so he has drawn his inspiration from Manu. And Nietzsche was the philosopher of Hitler. And Hitler became a source of inspiration to the conservative reactionary forces of India. This, is a very interesting circular process that, we are, although history is not circular, but I think it was Gunnar Myrdal who, way back in early 60s in his Asian drama says, in India, there is something called circular, causation. So one reinforces the other and it keeps on, moving in a circular. So today, therefore, Christians and the churches, their main contention is that they have lured them, and therefore they got converted to Christianity, and Christianity is tempting them, and they accuse them of. But the one thing we must understand that the Dalits are untouchables, have joined Christianity not because of the pull factor, but because of the push factor. So when you don't treat them as equal, when you don't allow them to come into a temple, you don't even, treat them as a human being. Once they join Christianity, they go to church. Although there is a discrimination, Martin must have mentioned, there is a discrimination within the Christians and all that. Within the converts, there is a caste system. That's another story. But at least they have access to a church, and they have access, of course, to certain health facilities. But at least they get dignity. I may say in this context, when I was a child going to school in my village, some of my teachers were Franklin, Leelam, they were Dalits, but they were converted Christians. And because they were converted, they had education. At that time, teachers were not available, so these people were appointed. And Franklin and Neelama were allowed into our house because they were Christians. But if only they were, Dalits, I don't think that they would have ever allowed them to get into our house. See, this is the social status slightly gets elevated because of conversion, but the Hindu forces do not understand that, they are joining Christianity partly, they keep on emphasizing on pull factor, but there is a push factor. And that's the reason why. So this discrimination or this type of looking down, this type of hierarchical treatment. And now a big debate is going on within the, Hindutva circles, that caste system is necessary for Samaj, Samarasta, or something they're saying, for social harmony. And they're saying if you disturb the caste system, the entire harmony will be disturbed. But this is the thinking. And if you continue this hierarchical, what Dr. Ambedkar said, graded inequalities, what happens to the Dalits who are at the rock bottom, and what will be exactly their status, their dignity, their self-respect, their opportunities? I think this is the problem that right now we are facing. So in other words, certain ideological framework, which is based on discrimination and deprivation, is getting, rebirth. We thought this will go and the society will move forward. But then we got into this, what we call circular causation, and we got into this whole thing. Now, how do we get out? Christians today, I am aghast to tell you that sometime back, maybe about 6, 7, 8 back before COVID, I was going to Mysore University on a Christmas day to give a lecture. So I was there was no flight those days to Mysore. So I got down in Bangalore. That was evening. They sent, I was going the vehicle, entire Bangalore. See, it was a Christmas day. And there used to be a lot of celebration. All churches were almost, they were not lighted. There was perhaps a muted celebration within the church, but that was not visible. I was so upset that Christmas is one festival which is so important for minorities, but they were not picking up courage to perform, to celebrate, Christmas because they were afraid that, these groups may come and attack. So this is the problem as far as minorities. Of course, as far as Muslims are concerned, there is a lot of propaganda, and of course, their conditions are much worse. I would say that they have become very insecure. Now, the Uniform Civil Code, if it comes, mainly it is aimed at removing some of the practices, although it has many other problems. But main reason why they want the Uniform Civil Code is to hit the minorities, their cultural practices, their cultural freedom. So this is what is happening as far as the minorities are concerned, Muslims and the Christians. Dalit Bahujan, see, there is a problem. So when you add Dalits and Bahujans together for electoral purposes, although they have done it, when you have this caste system, I wrote a article in 1994 when Mayawati got elected as a chief minister. There was a international seminar, and I wrote a small paper, Brahminism versus Bahujanism, right of Hindu fundamentalism. And my contention in that article was that in a hierarchical order, when it is undergoing certain change, each caste, as identity politics got consolidated, each caste is questioning the caste above, its authority, its dominance and all that. But at the same time, it is consolidating its dominance over the caste below. So what is happening is, in India right now, the castes above are challenging the higher caste. Therefore, it is becoming increasingly democratic in that sense. But at the same time, they are more organized, they are more consolidated, and dominating the caste below, which is promoting the authoritarianism and this type of fascist culture. So the intermediate caste, the Bahujan caste, if they are combined with the Dalits, there is also a conflict between the Dalits and the Bahujans. Although the upper Brahminical caste and the upper caste may look down the Bahujans and Dalits, but the relation between Dalit and Bahujan, although whatever experiment was made in Uttar Pradesh, the rising after the Green Revolution, the backward caste, some backward caste, who are also clubbed with the Bahujans, those castes are inflicting more violence on the Dalits than Brahmins and the other, upper caste. Now, so this tension, how do you negotiate? So Dalit Bahujan is such a wonderful concept that if only there can be more harmony, there can be more solidarity, and given the number and given the electoral, politics, yes, Dalit Bahujans can capture the power because they have the number. But why do you think that, the reactionary forces have become stronger? Because these intermediate castes are these castes which have become a little stronger economically, are more with the reactionary forces rather than with the Dalits. So this is the one major problem that India is facing, and the atrocities today on the Dalits are partly not by all Bahujans. Among the Bahujans, there are service castes which conditions are equally bad, if not worse. There are dhobis, there are barbers, there are corporate. It's not that their conditions are better. Service castes are really, living under very pathetic condition. But the problem is, they think that they are superior. In the hierarchy, they are placed at a higher level. How do we overcome this hierarchical, this dominant consciousness among the Bahujans is the challenge. If the Bahujans can move and can develop solidarity and go with the Dalits, I think in India would have moved. It would have been it would be a leap, a major leap in terms of social transformation. Yes, together they can challenge all these authoritarian fascist forces. They can do that. But then when the conflict is between the Bahujans and the Dalits, the sharpened, then how do you really circumvent this? How Bahujans, who talk of the Bahujan, but how Bahujan will become increasingly more humane, more democratic, respect equality with the, and as far as the state is concerned, I think state gradually is moving towards a system where they would like to give up whatever rights that have been granted by the Indian Constitution. And I understand that they already prepared an alternative constitution. And after 2024, if things go the way they are going, and if they come back with a comfortable power, then they would like to go for perhaps second republic, if one may call it. And then they say that this constitution is based completely on Manusmriti. So, whether India will face that, if that constitution comes, of course, they say there will not be franchise to the minorities, for the Christians and Muslims. Voting age will be reduced, and they will have a presidential system of government. So I understand the Hindu, sometime back reported very briefly, in the 3-day conference in Allahabad, this is what they have decided. Next Kumbh Mela, they would like to have the approval of this, because their Kumbh Mela is their constant assembly. So, and the things, the way they are going on, we are alarmed. And we have to watch India very closely, and the democratic forces in all sections of the society have to join together. Democratic forces from different communities, from Dalits, from the Bahujans. There are Democrats, there are democratic forces. Now, I'm not saying that there are democratic forces, but the solidarity between the Democrats from coming from the what you are referring to civil rights movement or the human rights movement, and so these movements, Dalit movement, for example, it has its own democratic character. The Bahujans, claiming or demanding greater share in the political, yes, it's democratic. But the problem is the internal segmentation, fragmentation, and sectarianism. These are responsible not only for weakening the Constitution of India, whatever rights have been guaranteed. On the other hand, the repressive laws, have taken the upper hand, and right on the hand is UPA, and UPA is one of the most draconian laws that perhaps any democratic nation can ever think of. That the minute the UPA is imposed, the minute somebody's booked under UPA, punishment starts. It's not that there's a trial and punishment starts without any there's no, it's a non-bailable 6 months. They can detain, 6 months punishment anyway will be there. And then Bhima Koregaon case is there, where there are upper castes, where there are Christians, and Stan Swami case you have referred. It is one of the most atrocious thing that has happened. And this law has become so, extensively used. In fact, it should be rarely used. But the dissent, they are coming down heavily. And the entire human rights structure, the architecture, and the entire constitutional framework of rights is, and that in a democracy, the freedoms of the citizen, rights of the citizen versus the security of the state, power of the state. In a liberal theory, now we keep on teaching Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau in the classroom, saying that the state has been created by the society. It has surrendered, because otherwise in the state of nature, human beings enjoyed unrestrained freedom of thought and unrestrained freedom. Therefore, but there was insecurity. And human beings who were otherwise enjoying freedom wanted to overcome little insecurity, and therefore they created a state for security. They gave a part of their freedom, maybe 10% of freedom, to the state, and 90%, in order to ensure that 90% of freedom is protected. But today, state has come to believe that it created the society. It's not the society created the state. State has become real, society has become notional. And if you look at the 75 years of development of Indian Constitution, on the human rights side, the rights are continuously narrowed down, they are shrinking, and the power of the state is continuously increasing. Why? My last point is that the model of development that we have opted for, particularly neoliberalism, as long as liberalism, some capitalist path or middle path was there was a secular, social, at least ideologically, Indian state would keep on repeating them. But once neoliberalism came, you would know that the philosophical shift of the assumption of the human nature has changed. In the capitalism, they think self-interest dominates human being, or self-interest driven human being. But Adam Smith also talked of the moral sentiment and the rights of the others and all that. But neoliberalism, if you see Ayn Rand school and all that, neoliberalism says that human beings should be selfish. And they say that you live for yourself. Don't bother about others. And those human beings who have concern for others are very weak and incomplete human beings. Those who live with complete selfishness are complete human beings, perfect human beings. They are living a meaningful life and they live for themselves and live. Therefore, there are books in defense of selfishness. So this shift in the economic model, the very assumption, the very foundation of the economic model from liberalism to neoliberalism, this also partly contributed to in India when it opened up the market and when it opted for neoliberalism. Neoliberalism and semi-feudal conditions in the in the terms of Hindutva forces, they joined together, and that has created a terrible situation today in India, and we are passing through this phase. But I'm sure that history will always move forward with all its zigzag methods, its aberrations, its blunders. But we hope that things will change, and Karnataka in a way demonstrated that Hindutva forces cannot take people for granted, and it has come as a ray of hope. And hopefully, Indian state will become a little more democratic. It will become human rights friendly. Dalit Bahujans assertion, will lead to greater freedoms and greater dignity. And the upper strata of the dominant communities will have to rethink of their own, framework or with their own approach to the society, and hopefully a more humane, at least that has to be our dream, a more humane, equitable, like what Constitution of India said, equality, fraternity, liberty, which are the highest noble values which Constitution of India is founded upon. I would think that we'll move forward. Debates of this kind will help us to develop certain insight into what's happening, and greater understanding, greater awareness, greater debate will contribute to the advancement of civilization and humane or humanizing the society. I stop here, and maybe if there is some intervention, again, I'll let you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Haragopal Garu. I think you have highlighted the point of just a moment. Yeah, you highlighted the point of the relationship between neoliberal economics, how they deprive, education and healthcare at the same time, they also lead to ignoring, the civil rights, right? I think at this point of time, if anybody has questions, right, any brief questions to Professor Haragopal, or, any comment, you can feel free to ask, right? Vimal, Martin, Peter, do you guys have any questions? Okay, in the Haragopal, let me ask you one question. I'm just see right now, the need of the hour is the ethnic cleansing happening in Manipur, specifically, as Colin Gonzalez has put, it is nothing but the ethnic cleansing of cookies, right, by the majority community, right? What is the need of the hour? How the civil society? What is the responsibility of civil society in this situation?
I think I have two examples. One is the Telangana movement. First, the Telangana movement, in retrospect, I feel has I should have been on a different lines than what happened. But all sections of the society, irrespective of the caste, identity, they have joined in a massive way, and there was a lot of solidarity. There were joint action committees of different professions, different identities, but all of them joined together to fight for one goal. But that process, that struggle, during the struggle itself, I used to argue with Kodan and with Jaishankar. Jaishankar was such a close friend of mine. I used to take a lot of liberty. But then, the entire thing got reduced to geographical Telangana, or what is called, first they said, let's get Telangana, then we thought. I think, see, any struggle which gets reduced into minimum will maybe even it will become counterproductive. See, as a part of the struggle, see, when you are fighting for a separate Telangana, you are fighting for a democratic, humane, equitable, fair, and just Telangana. This vision ought to have led the Telangana, even if the formation of Telangana were delayed, would have got a Telangana with much better relations. But then we said, let us first get Telangana, Bahujans, Telangana, whatever. We got it. But then what happened? All relations, all the joint action committees, just they got dissolved, and the entire thing collapsed. Now, if you look at another example of role of civil society, vibrant role of civil society, is the recent elections in Karnataka. You must have read that in Karnataka, 121 civil societal organizations, Dalits, Bahujans, minorities, Christians, all of them have joined together, and they have not campaigned for any political party, but they have campaigned for a better Karnataka, and they went to village and sat with the people and explained the economic conditions, deprivations, and rising price, unemployment. There is the basic issues. And even those who were deep into identity politics, even Hindutva politics, they said, yes, economic problems are becoming terrible, and our children are not getting job, they are not getting quality education, prices are rising, gas price has gone up. And therefore, these civil societal groups said that if these are the problems, then, these are the problems you should be raising and asking all political parties, and the existing political parties solely responsible for what is happening. And therefore, if you want the conditions, you must also change your voting priority. And they have carried this campaign, and they have succeeded. And the Hindutva forces in Karnataka have really become weakened. And then the civil societal organizations which have joined, this 120 odd organizations, they are continuing their work. They have not just said that, political party in power will change. No, they said that's not their goal. Their goal is to democratize. Their goal is to raise the consciousness. Their role is to build the solidarity. Their role, they think, is to create critical consciousness. Now conditions are in what Paulo Freire says, semi-transit. See, they are half conscious, half, indifferent. But these civil societal organizations played, in my view, in last 75 years of independent India, an extremely important role in educating, in conscientizing Karnataka. But we are all watching with a lot of curiosity and a lot of interest how the civil societal organization, or what role the civil societal organization will play now. Of course, they think Congress provides a little more democratic space for argument, for building movements, and all that. We have to see how, but they have demonstrated one thing, that civil societal organization, without being a part of the mainstream politics, yet can play a very critical role in the political process. But that political process to them is democratization. That political process is greater consciousness. That democratic process is to demand for certain everyday life problems and economic demands. And I think we are all watching this thing. So if this experiment can be repeated, then civil society will become stronger and challenging the state and state power, because they have a huge network, and they have also popular support, and they enjoy a lot of legitimacy. Whether this can be repeated in other parts of India, I think is the question. Now, of course, they are being invited everywhere, all over India. People want to listen to their experiment. Civil society can still play a very important role in protecting the democratic and constitutional values.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Hargopal garu. Brother Martin, can you please ask your question? Martin?
Harigopal garu.
Possible?
So
Start your video and ask if
thank you.
possible.
Thank you so much for joining call. You have shared a lot of valuable experiences of Telangana movement also. And also you mentioned the professor. One thing, as Ambedkar's motto says, educate, organize, agitate, and civil society you mentioned plays very key role in democratic alliance. I know Professor Jaishankar mentioned for Telangana movement, go to every Rachabanda in every village, blow the trumpet or turn on the candle or something that awaken the people. So how do we work together to awaken the people? This is where we need your expert advice how we can communicate to the mass to awaken them so that the civil society can place an active role, how one person can become 1 billion people. So what are the strategy and framework we can implement? So if you can please advise on that, Hargopal. Yeah.
Yeah, see, what's happening is now, right now in Telangana, so after this recent UPA case, I suddenly find that Telangana has become very vibrant. Every day, today I have almost 4 meetings. Yesterday I had to go some 150. There is a lot of debate going on. And several organizations have come forward. There is anyway Bharat Bachao, but then there is a Telangana Bachao, then Swecha Joint Action Committee with 40 organizations. Then Kodand and other organizations joined. There is another group. There are at least 4 groups right now with almost same goal, but they are all working. And we are now trying. Of course, all 4 groups are asking me whether I can put across the views, and so some of us perhaps going to all the meetings and explaining that what happened during Telangana movement. If you can work together, work together. If you want to work separately, work separately. If you want to work as a parallel, work as parallel, but don't contradict each other. Now our job is to make Telangana critically conscious. What exactly we wanted during Telangana strike? What were our expectations? I wrote extensively what should happen after Telangana on education, on Dalit question, on caste question. Now I used to also raise these questions in public meetings. Will we have less repressive Telangana? We'll have more democratic Telangana. We'll have more equitable Telangana. Will the gender dignity will come back? So in other words, now the Telangana movement has thrown up a lot of aspirations, but those aspirations, completely got lost once we got Telangana. Now Telangana is recalling what exactly were its expectations. And all these civil societal groups, Murali, resigned from IAS, Chandra Kumar, who was a High Court judge, Kodan Ram, who anyway enjoys a lot of public image, a moral poster. There are civil rights groups. There are Dalit groups. I have seen the Dalit groups in the last 15 days, must have gone to several meetings. Such a voices, particularly women from Dalits, the type of question they're asking, the confidence with which they are raising question is refreshing. But they're all working in independent or individual capacities. Now, whether we can bring all these, if not, solidarity or, under one umbrella, or at least give one vision. So all of them can work towards one goal of more democratic Telangana, more, articulate Telangana, more vibrant Telangana. If they can do that, even if the, Telangana politics change, we have to continue that effort. Like the civil liberties movement, we have been working last 50 years. Yes, our capacity, our energies may be limited, but whatever was possible, we have done in the civil rights movement. That's not enough. Today, all civil society, all the identity groups, forgetting the identity as a differentiating, but remembering that identity as a common goal of dignity, self-respect, equality. So I think this is what is happening. It's in a very, very embryonic form, but let us see that. I think that's how the civil society groups can be activated. Yeah.
Okay, yep, thank you. Peter, do you have any comment? See, guys, I would request everybody to on your video, just say hello and, as a titleless for 30 seconds. That would be, if you have any questions. Or Peter, do you have any question or comment, a quick?
No, nothing. Well, actually a couple things. As the good professor was mentioning, a couple of his points stood out to me. One is I appreciated his comment about the differentiation between neoliberalism and liberalism, and especially with Adam Smith, for instance, he talked about economic pursuits being based on self-interest, but there is a rather large difference between that and what we have with neoliberalism today in terms of it being something where economic pursuits are ideologically based on pure selfishness and not caring about anybody else. I thought that was a very cogent point that stood out to me. Then the other issue or other aspect of the professor's remarks was about the place that civil society working in a capacity where they are not pursuing any particular political agenda or with in conjunction with any particular political party, the place that civil society has in order in its ability to move the needle, and certainly in terms of, as Ajit Sahi at the outset of this conversation mentioned, there is such a need for us to resist Hindutva in the US in a number of ways, or for a number of reasons. One certainly being that the Hindutva movement and organizations in the US serve as one of the major pillars of support for the Hindutva movement and organizations back in India. And if you kick that pillar out, then you do major damage to the Hindutva movement back in India. That's one reason to go after them. Another one is that within the US, they're making at this point the Hindutva movement and the personalities and figures associated with it are making such major inroads into both American society, whether in terms of altering even American educational curriculum or American politics and administration. In terms, for instance, of over the past year, we saw 3 major Hindutva-linked personalities being appointed to positions in the Biden administration, all of which are positions which deal with the Department of Homeland Security. And in particular, one of these people that was appointed is the son of the co-founder of the Overseas Friends of the BJP, which is now a registered foreign agent in this country. And yet this son of the co-founder of the BJP, which is now a registered foreign agent, was appointed by the Biden administration as the White House's liaison to the Department of Homeland Security. Yep. So from that perspective, a secondary reason that I would say it's very important to go after these groups in America is because of the inroads they're making, which are, especially when you start seeing them being placed in such high sensitivity positions, very concerning. And so as far as what the professor was saying about the strength of civil society operating in a capacity where they're not necessarily trying to align with any political party or a specific political agenda, but that the strength of them to come together, work in solidarity, although they may be disparate organizations. I think that that's one of the things that we really need to, here in the US, also be replicating. especially, of course, specifically in this fight against Hinduttva in the US. And I do think, to wrap up, that aspect of the struggle is one where there is a potentially much greater likelihood of finding bang for our buck or finding success than in simply focusing on or in putting all of our eggs into the basket of political outreach. As it was mentioned, this military-industrial complex has zero interest in the issue of human rights around the world, let alone in India. They're interested in the economic advancement of the military-industrial complex's interests. And so from that perspective, appealing to them and to the political arena, those sitting in those positions of political power, to effect some change in their policy towards India under Modi, under the Hinduttva movement, is unfortunately, barring a miracle, a lost cause. However, within terms of working primarily, now I do believe that there does need to be work done in that political arena, but it is not the place where we are likely to find success. However, I do believe that there is a great potential with intensified effort, or in fact, even not even just an intensified effort, but really a genesis of an effort in consideration of the fact that as somebody within this field, I don't see much happening right now. I do think that focus on developing that civil society network and activism in America in the pushback against Hinduttva stands to yield a lot of fruit.
Okay, yeah, thoughtful comment, Peter. Yeah, but I think, yeah, yes, Farhan, yeah.
I just had a quick question. I mean, firstly, thank you, Professor Haragopal, for the insightful thoughts, and also building up on what Peter mentioned about engaging the civil society in educating them and bring awareness to them, to collaborate with them. So, and I also hear your thoughts about not being, as you know, Peter, we have been working a lot with reaching out to legislators, and we have had limited success with that. So what are some organizations or some examples of reaching out to civil society here and living in America and educating and bringing awareness to them? Can you give me some practical examples?
Sure. Examples of organizations that are doing it, or examples of how they could do it?
Organizations which we can reach out and collaborate with them.
Well, off the top of my head, Subgatula, I don't have a lot of specific examples, names of organizations, but one thing I do think is important is to go full spectrum. Certainly, and I've already, as you know, attempted to do this to whatever extent I can myself. Attempted to reach out to a large number of Christian churches and clergy. And when I say go full spectrum, I think it's important, for instance, in context of reaching out to the Christian churches, to not be afraid to, not hesitate to, and indeed embrace reaching out to far right and far left churches and all the ones in the center. Mm-hmm. Same thing I would say in the political arena as well with outreach, as I know has already been happening, is that while we have our own political opinions and oftentimes want to hold our noses against one side or the other, in terms of making an impact on this specific issue within American society, I think it's necessary to go ahead and don't discount the possibility that anybody might end up becoming some kind of an ally on this issue, as long as you don't necessarily have to give ground to their cause. So from that,
Peter, Peter, can you just wrap up so that we are
Sure,
Just
sure.
wrap up.
I think it's an excellent question. I think the how is always the hardest part and needs definitely a lot of thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will discuss. Yeah, thank you. See, Addanki Dayakar is also probably carefully listening. See, what interesting thing I found out this speech is, civil rights activists for a long time, they have skipped this electoral politics, right? I mean, this is not our space or territory, but based on the Haragopal thought process, now we have to reinvent our role. How we can use this, this playground of elections also to further the campaign of, constitutional rights, civil rights, that is one new aspect, we have learned, right? I think like in any way, he has clearly articulated in state of Karnataka, the civil society and specifically the people's organizations and rights organizations, they played a key role in, defeating the Hindutva, right? I think Addanki Dayakar also, right? Addanki Dayakar, namaste, Haragopal sir ki namaste cheppanu. Do you want to have a quick comment, Anna?
యా ఇప్పుడు నా దృష్టిలో హరగోపాల్ గారు థియరిటికల్ గా అవేర్ అయి ఉన్నాడు, ప్రాక్టికల్ గా కూడా తాను కొన్ని ప్రయత్నాలు చేసిండు. దాని మీదనే తనకు యుఏపిఏ ఒక కేసు పెట్టే ప్రయత్నం చేసిండు. వన్ థింగ్ నాకు ఏంటంటే, అసలు మూమెంట్ వేరు, పాలిటిక్స్ వేరు. సో మూమెంటే పాలిటిక్స్ అయితే ఎట్లుంటది అనే ఆలోచన, నేను మూమెంట్ టర్న్డ్ లీడర్ కాబట్టి, అంటే పొలిటికల్ లీడర్ కాబట్టి, నాకు చాలా ఆలోచనలు రాజకీయ నాయకత్వంలో అవి లేవు. ఆ మధ్యన గ్యాప్ కూడా అట్లా పెరుగుతున్న పరిస్థితి మనం కనబడుతున్నది. కాబట్టి ఇంటలెక్చువల్ థాట్స్ ఎప్పుడు కూడా పొలిటికల్ థాట్స్ గా మారడానికి ఒక వెహికల్ ఉండాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. అది కేవలం మేధావుల మనసులో, మస్తిష్కంలో మగ్గే కొన్ని ఆలోచనల రూపంలో కాకుండా అది రాజకీయ కార్యాచరణ కొరకు ఉపయోగపడితే మరింత మేలు జరుగుతుందని నేను అనుకుంటున్నా. బట్ టుడే నేను అనుకుంటున్నా ఇండియన్ పాలిటిక్స్ మిమ్మల్ని అందరినీ కూడా అటువైపు డ్రైవ్ చేస్తాయి. నేను అనుకుంటున్నా కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ పాలిటిక్స్ అనేవి లేవు, కేవలం క్యాస్ట్ పాలిటిక్స్ లేదంటే క్యాష్ పాలిటిక్స్ మాత్రమే ఉన్నాయి. సో వాటిని మార్చడానికి మేధ ఎవరైతే ఉంటారో ఈ భారత సమాజంలో ఉన్న ఇంటెలెక్చువల్స్ అంతా కూడా అటువైపు డ్రైవ్ చేయకపోతే నాకు తెలిసి భారత ప్రజాస్వామ్యం అంటే ఇండియన్ డెమోక్రసీ కానీ, ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ కానీ వైబుల్ గా ఉండదు భవిష్యత్తులో. ఇప్పటికే ఐసోలేట్ చేసింది దాన్ని, అంటే ఆ రాజ్యాంగాన్ని అక్కడ పెట్టి దాన్ని వైలేట్ చేయడానికి ఏ విధంగా చేయాలనో ఆ వ్యవస్థలన్నిటి కూడా అట్లా తయారు చేసుకున్నారు. కానీ నిజమైన అంటే రియల్ డెమోక్రసీ బతకాలంటే ప్రజాస్వామికవాదులు, తర్వాత మానవతావాదులు ముందుకు రావాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందని నాకు అభిప్రాయం.
Thank you, sir. Very enlightening. I think we have to explore, how we can play a role. I mean, obviously, the power politics is a different game, but still we have to use that space, for strengthening, civil rights. Miru Prabhakar, మీరు ఏమన్నా మాట్లాడతారా? నా కామెంట్ ఉందా? మీరు ప్రభాకర్ కస్తూరి, మన మీటింగ్ ఎండింగ్కి వచ్చింది, మీరు మ్యూట్ లో ఉన్నారు. అన్మ్యూట్. మీ వాయిస్ వినిపించట్లే. ఓ మీది ఆడియో పనిచేయట్లేదు ప్రభాకర్, మీ ఆడియో ఎందుకో. సరే, ఓకే, సరేలే. ఐ థింక్ ఆడియో లేదు, మీ ఆడియో మీరు మాట్లాడడానికి మీరు యూఆర్ ట్రైంగ్ టు స్పీక్ బట్ వీ కెనాట్ హియర్ యూ, వినిపిస్తలేదు. సరే, అయితే ఐ థింక్ మీటింగ్ ఎండింగ్ వచ్చింది కాబట్టి ప్రభాకర్ వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తలేదు.
Hello.
ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడండి. మాట్లాడండి.
Yeah, it's a very wonderful session you organized. Thank you, Sajid ji. I learned so many things from Peter and all. One question I want to know about from that Martin. What he said is right. The sections they are not leading powerfully to argue against this Hindutva and the things. Now at present situation we are struggling that the intellectual community and also the neutral sections, they are UCC civil code they are differing. How we have to understand that this present situation? I want to know from the
మార్టిన్. మీరు అనేది మార్టిన్ అంటే యూఆర్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ఇండస్ మార్టినా? ఇండస్ మార్టిన్ లేరు ఇప్పుడు, ఆయన అంటే ట్రావెల్లో ఉన్నారు ఆయన. అందుకని తన స్పీచ్ ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత అయిపోయింది అనమాట. తర్వాత మళ్ళీ మాట్లాడదాం.
Okay.
తర్వాత మాట. Yeah, thank you Haragopal garu, right? Thank you Haragopal, thank you Peter and Indus Martin for all the speakers who have participated, Ajit Sahi, right? To all the people who participated in the meeting. I think it's very important. The constitutional rights might be in the constitution in the print, but it is the responsibility of us, right, to defend it, right, and to to defend it and to practice these rights by the ruling regimes, ruling classes. I think this responsibility will be continue. We need to consistently defend and in order to exercise the right. Thank you for your valuable time. I'm sure Professor Haragopal, Peter, and all the speeches will become a valuable lessons to study more, do an intensive study, and how we can reinvent the role of civil rights activists and a reinvent to the changing social conditions. That is very important. Okay, so I would like to thank you on behalf of Fresh Perspectives, Telangana Vidyavantula Vedika North America, and Global Bahujan Group, right, and India Coalition for Dallas, right, all of us for putting this event. Thank you, valuable time. Haragopal garu, thank you and me time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, Atul, okay. He came in last. You want to say something like 3 words, 3 sentences? You are in mute, buddy.
Okay,
Atul,
thank you.
yeah. Say something, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
Sajid, let's regroup after the call. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
So-
much. Salute to you.
Raidas. Yeah.
I just wanted to express my views, but I think we have great speakers, and when I started listening, so I just kept my mouth shut, and their thoughts, their opinion, and their inputs are really incredible. So that's why I thought, considering the time constraint, we can obviously discuss anytime, right? We can meet in person, but getting the inputs and opinion from these great people is we would not be getting this opportunity. So I wanted to take this opportunity to listen them, hear them out, and perhaps we can try to implement certain things. So it indeed a great session, and I would like to thank and appreciate everyone who joins, and Peter, my friend. Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Haragopal garu. With all your right consent, we will conclude this meeting. Thank you.
And I
we'll
think
catch up.
we had Mr. Dayakar, so I was not able to understand properly Telugu, but certainly, Saji, I will touch base with you to understand what he was trying to say. But
Sure.
that was something interesting. I could, with the body language, I can make it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Haragopal garu. Right.
Thanks, sir.
We'll thank you for your time, and we'll conclude it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.